Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back again for yet another deck tech. I'm hoping you're not getting bored of these yet. So today's one is another one from Dominaria United. It's one of the actual Commander exclusive legendary cards from the set, and it's actually an unusual one. It's only the second time I've done a deck tech with a Commander of this type, and so I'm quite excited to do it, but it's been quite a bit of a challenge purely because of the colours and the nature of what you really want to be doing with this card. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Sivitri Dragon Master. I hope I've said that right. If I haven't, you can shout me down below in the comments. It's 2 blue and black for 4 loyalty planeswalker. That has the +1 until your next turn. Creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 2 life for each of those creatures, which is really good way of draining your opponent out, just so we're clear. -3, search your library for a dragon card, reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle. And -7, destroy all non-dragon creatures. And obviously the ability that Sivitri Dragon Master can be your commander. This is, I think it's only the second time. I have got other planeswalkers that can be commanders in my collection, as I'm not ignoring that. But I think this is only the second time I've done a deck tech where the actual lead commander for the deck has been a planeswalker. And like I say, having this one, blue and black, you want blue and black dragons, and it has been a challenge to try and get something that's reasonably balanced. So here we go for the deck tech. I hope you enjoy it, and let me get on with it. Starting off with the land. We've got Black Dragon Gate. I've tried to keep it all blue-black. So we've got Black Dragon Gate, Choke Estuary, Contaminated Aquifer, which is one of the new ones as well, which is actually really nice. It is a dual land as well, and it's got the basic land types, which does help. We've got Dimir Aqueduct, Dimir Gilgate, Dismal Backwater, Drone Catcope. Anything that's blue-black that I have in my collection is gone on this deck. But I've also had to include some other bits and pieces, like Crucible of the Spirit Dragon to help us cast the dragons that we're going to need to cast. Haven of the Spirit Dragon as well, so we can get those creatures, if they get killed off, we can get them back from our graveyard to our hand. Yes, it costs us a mana to do it, but it also does tap to help us cast those dragons. Fabled Passage, Field of the Dead are here. It's blue-black. We're going to have some zombies. We need something to gum up the ground with, hence why they're here. But everything else in the deck tends to be available as a blue-black land, as you can see. Apart from Obscura Storefront, I chucked this in from New Capenna just so it gives me another way of searching out a land, a basic swamp or a basic island if I need it. Reliquary Tower's in as well, because I've got a feeling because we're trying to build up our mana and get there, we're going to get stuff stuck in our hands and we don't want to be discarding. I've also seen an uptick in some bounce spells at the moment, so hence why it's here, so we don't have to discard them once we've worked hard to get our dragons in our hand. Last one I'll just point out, we've got Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth in here to help us make sure we hit the swamps we need, and likewise Temple of the False Gods here because we are going to need that mana bank. Mana ramp. I don't know why I said bank, apologies. To help with that mana ramp, Mox Tantalite, Soul Talisman are here as part of the Suspend package of artifacts because we're going to need the mana. You can see how heavy the deck is further up the line here in the deck tech. So we are going to need it and we're going to need to pump quickly. Soul Rings in as well to help with that argument. And Arcane Signet, Charcoal Island, Sky Diamond are in as well. And even Dragon Horde's in. I am classing Solemn Simulacrum as in this deck purely as land ramp. Not for the 2/2 die, draw a card thing, but purely because we need to go and get the land out so we can cast our big stuff as things go along. So that's the ramp side of it. I have done it so there's some blockers, and I've put a couple of cards in that do see play occasionally, but not that often. So let's have a look at them. The first one of that goes in that category is Inevitable Betrayal. It's expensive to suspend, but when you can get it off, you can go and nick. If you've got an opponent and you know they're going to have a really good creature that's going to help you out no end, you can go and nick it with this. It seemed like such a good plan to me, hence why I went in here. Beyond that, we go on to the 1-drops. Ponder's in, so we can sort the top of our library out, and if we don't like what's there we can shuffle it, then draw a card. Likewise, Serum Visions is in for the same time. Draw a card, scry 2. Foulmare Knights I've also chucked in just so we can have that 2 mana instant draw a card. Okay, we lose a life. That's part of the reason, but the other reason it's really in is it's a 1 mana 1/1 with Death Touch in black that we can just use to sit there and gum the board up with and block and hopefully slow down the beats we're taking. Cloud of Fairies in. I've played it a couple of times now. I'm starting to enjoy playing Cloud of Fairies, so it's gone into this deck as well. It was in the deck tech. If you watched it yesterday about Ivy, it was in there as well. But I've decided to go try Cloud of Fairies out a little bit more than what I do normally, just because I think the ability to have a 1/1 that flies and enters the battlefield and untaps 2 lands could be really beneficial, especially if we've got a tapped, say, black land, blue-black land, we need to get it untapped, we've only got 2 islands. It does help with that point. Talking of bounce, Cyclonic Rift's in here. We need some way to sweep the board, keep things under control. Hopefully we'll get to the 7 mana to do this as quickly as possible. And unusually for me, there are counter spells in this deck. The first which is Disdainful Stroke. I'm not a great control player. You've probably seen it if you've seen me on the stream or some of the other decks. I'm not the greatest at playing control, but this deck has really made me want to go down that let's have some counter ability in to stop things. We've got Disdainful Stroke. Disperse is also in, just to bounce stuff that's getting on annoying. Because we are playing so many instants and sorceries and things, I've chucked in Thing in the Ice as well, so we can bounce everything back. Hopefully this will be a way we can do this quickly before we start casting the dragons, because the last thing we want to do is flip this and have all our dragons back to our hand as well, so that's why it's here. Likewise, Unsubstantiate is a kind of a semi-counter spell, I suppose. You know, if someone's tapping out to play something that's going to annoy you, you can put the spell back in their hand, and if it's a creature you can just bounce it at any stage, so hence why it's here. Voyage's End for the same reason, bouncing the creatures that get annoying, but it gives us a little bit of scry that helps. Counterspell stops anything. You all know this. I hope you all know what Counterspell does. That's why it's in here. I've included Kami of the Crescent Moon just for the additional card draw. Yes, we don't get it until it circles back round to us, I'm aware of that, but at the end of the day, if we can just draw a few extra cards, it might help us get down to where we need to be. Mana Drain is in as well. I and ahed about Mana Drain. I was going to play Mana Drain or Counterspell, then I decided no, play both of them. Mana Drain's in because we are going to be casting big dragons later on in the game, and if we can nobble a 4 spell and have 2 lands in play, getting that 6 mana on our next turn could be really beneficial to help us cast some of the dragons we've got coming up, or some of the spells that are coming up, as a matter of fact. Baleful Strix, Flying, Death Touch. Yeah, the draw cards, nice. The flying, the Death Touch is what I was worried about, hence why it's here. Mirim seems to be on the uptick again. I've seen a lot of those decks recently, and having this there to block some of the dragons that may be casting. Okay, it may get shot down by Terror of the Peaks or something similar, but it does give us a nice little bit of a flying blocker. I've talked about the signets and them. Monastery Siege is another one of those cards that's been around for a while. You see it very rarely. But I've put it in for the Dragon's ability, so spells your opponents cast that target you or permanent you control cost 2 more to cast. Yes, it's not going to stop them Wrath of Godding, Damnationing, Day of Judgment, so on and so forth. But if they're going 1-to-1 removal on your dragons, they've got to pay 2 to make it work. So it's like, I suppose you could call it kind of a little ward effect maybe for things that target your creatures, but we'll see if it works or not. And if the worst comes to the worst and you need to draw through your deck more, you can always put the Khan's thing in. But the chances are you'll be playing it on the dragons. Sweep Away's in to return target creature to its hand. If that creature was attacking, you can put it on top of their owner's library instead. It seemed like a reasonable plan to me. It slows down their next draw. They know what they're getting, but if it saves you, it saves you. Usual disclaimer for Time Twister. Again, it's a blue deck. I want a Time Twister in. I spoke about it in yesterday's video. If I'm playing blue, chances are Time Twister's going in. If you're building this in real life, you don't need Time Twister. You can put something else in there. I've got a Kansas, the Omnipotent, just as the card that's sitting up here at the moment, that you could put in over the top of it. But it's in. I've got one on MTGO. Keep it that way. Dissipate, another counter spell. The nice thing about this is if it's a creature that's annoying that you've bounced, if you've got this on the next turn, you can just counter it and it's gone forever. It goes to the exile zone and they don't have a really easy way of getting it back. Jace is in because I've discovered that Jace Beleren, if you're playing it, people think it's party Jace, especially if you let everyone draw a card, and you'll be surprised in the amount of random pick-up games where I've played this and let everyone draw a card, I've been left alone for a couple of turns. Now the people who come and follow me on Twitch, who I play with probably most regularly, know I do this and they still come and attack me. But, you know, if you're playing it, it does help party Jace. Let's go with that. The next 2 cards are more or less the same. Demon's Disciple and Fleshbag Marauder. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be sacrificing these to themselves, but you're going to get rid of the annoying thing your opponent's got. The only real difference between Fleshbag and Demons is that Demon's Disciple will deal with Planeswalkers, so bear that in mind, it might benefit you at some stage. But if you've got these in play, what you really want to do is hope you can play these after you've played Liliana. Liliana's the first one of the, I think maybe the only Planeswalker in this deck. I think I've just put it in because I wanted to try her out again. But if you're going to have this in play and you do the flesh bag, you can sack the flesh bag. You've got a non-creature token that's dying. Liliana will transform. You'll get a 2/2 zombie, and then you've got all the nice abilities that Liliana brings when she flips into the Planeswalker. So bear that in mind. I just had a spare slot. I'm not going to say Bottle Gnomes is worth it. It does give us a little bit of life. It can block effectively for the first few turns. And if it's got to block something big that hasn't got trample, you can block it. And when damage is going on the stack, you can sack it off, gain the 3 life, and still have that non-trampling creature block. So bear that in mind. Dragon's Horde I talked about because of the dragons. Likewise, Solemn Simulacrum I talked about because it's there for the mana ramp in this deck. Although, when it dies, the card draw is nice, but mana ramp is what we're going for. Damnation I've put in as a full-blooded, let's just blow all the creatures up. I haven't seen many combo decks recently, and everything seems to be playing around creature decks, so I figured, if you're playing at the moment on MTGO, have something that will blow the board up. So there's another one coming up in a second. There may be another 2, but I think there's only 1. So Damnation's in. Now we come to the real meat of the deck. There's a lot of dragons coming up. And a lot of them are things that do turn up, but you do see in other decks. If you're playing a 5-colour dragon deck, you'll see them turn up. I've found it really difficult to work out which ones I want for this deck. I'd really like you to let me know in the comments down below if there is a dragon I've missed that you think should be in this blue-black deck. Hopefully I'll get the colours right in my head at some stage as well. Not going mad at all. So, let's just have a look at them. Icefall Regents in. Comes into play, tap target creature, it doesn't untap as long as you control it. It's also fed, it's kind of also got Ward as well. You might as well just call it Ward 2, there might be error to it, but they won't, because when it was set back in Dragons of Tarkir, as you can see, Ward didn't exist. But basically this is Ward for more intents and purposes now. Speaking of Ward, Imrith, Desert Doom's in as well. It's a cheap 5/5 dragon for 5 mana. And when it deals the combat damage, draw a card. If you have fewer than 3 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. Fantastic. But it comes with Ward forward as long as untapped. It makes it a really good blocker for some of the power 4 or less creatures you've got coming in that you may be coming. Sorry, 4 or less power, 5 or more toughness creatures that may be kicking around. So bear it in mind. The other mass removal, Crux of Fate, obviously. You're going to have some dragons in play. You're going to be casting this as destroy all non-dragons. Hopefully you're not up against Mirim. If you're up against Mirim, you are going to be casting it as destroy all dragon creatures, so bear that in mind. Next dragon coming in is Junji, the Midnight Sky. What you're going to be doing with this is getting your opponents to discard 2 cards and lose the life. You haven't got that many non-dragon creatures in here unless you want to bring back Solemn. So you're not going to be using the second effect that much, but it could be a case that they drop their last 2 cards. It is flying, it is menace, and it is 5/5 for 5 mana, which makes it good in my mind. Palace Siege is next. Again, it's another one of the Siege cards. You see it occasionally, you don't see it that often. I decided to play this and its blue counterpart I talked about earlier, Monastery Siege, because why not? You might as well have them in the deck and get on with it. And this one is I'm going to be setting depending on what's happening. If I'm playing against someone who's got a lot of Wraths, or a couple of opponents with a lot of Wraths, it's going to be Karn, so I can get the creatures back. If I'm playing more along people with control decks or beatdown decks, it's going to be the second one where everyone's losing 2 life and you're gaining 2 life. You really do need to look at what's happening on the board before you make a decision on which one you're setting this on. Ashiok Nightmare Muse is in, purely because I wanted some blockers. 2/3 Nightmare creatures and you can exile their cards, and if you can do the -7 trick, fantastic, but 9 times out of 10 it's going to be create a blue 2/3 blocker, or it's going to be -3 and return target non-land permanent, and then they exile a card. Be aware that if they've only got, they've got nothing in their hand, they will exile whatever you bounce, and people seem to forget that sometimes, so bear that in mind if you're playing this card. I've chucked in Eloise, Nephalid Sleuth. It's one of the decks one of the cards I'm not sure about. But we do have creatures that are probably going to die at some stage, so we might get the odd token out of it, clue token, and if someone is going to wrath the board, well, so be it. We'll get a whole load of tokens, so let's go for it. Next dragon, Necromaster dragon, deals combat damage to a player. You're going to pay the 2, you're going to get some zombies, you're going to get a zombie and they're going to mill 2, and each opponent will mill 2 cards, so it gives you a little kind of secondary win condition in the long game. Take a long time to mill 100 odd cards, but it's there. Silumgarde's commands in. For 5 mana, you get to do 2 very important things. Destroy a target planeswalker, which is the biggest issue, and probably either return a target permanent to its owner's hand, or give a creature -3/-3. Counter target non-creature spell, you're probably not going to happen. We've got the other stuff that we talked about earlier, mana drain, counter spell, etc. to deal with that. This is more like blowing up planeswalkers and bouncing stuff. Bear that in mind when you're playing it. Up to the 6 drops. We'll go with the Tide Star. We thought we'd have one of the original dragon spirits in here, and when it snuffs it, you get to go and get someone else's creature. Good plan in this deck. Consecrate Sphinx to help us draw more cards, as though we're going to need it. Likewise, Dragonlord's Prerogatives in here so we can draw into the stuff. Don't forget, we have got to get the ramp up, which is why these 2 cards are in here. We need to get our Arcane Signets, Charcoal Diamonds, Sky Diamonds, etc. into play, and we've got to draw them first. If we haven't got them in our opening hands, we need to get down and get them. This is why they're here. Likewise, Ikara, the Swirling Skies here as well. Mainly so we can return the permanents, but milling 6 cards and returning a couple of instants and sorceries to our hand isn't the worst plan in the world either. Shimmer Dragon, we do potentially have 4 or more artifacts in play, and that does mean it gets hexproof, which is quite nice. But even if we've got a couple of artifacts in play, just tapping 2 of them to draw a card helps us dig into our deck as we go through it. Kukushko's turning up again. Sorry, I know people have got real bad feelings about Kukushko, but I just love the fact that when it dies, everyone loses 5, and you can gain up to 15 life. So yeah, it's going in black decks while I'm playing dragons at the moment. Likewise, Dragonlord Silumgarde's in as well. Enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature or planeswalker as long as you control it. Go and nick their planeswalker that's about to go off. It's good fun. Ruthless Deathfang. When you sacrifice a creature, target opponent sacrifices a creature. So that combos really nicely with our Disciples and our Fleshbag Marauder down here, hence why it's appeared. And finally, Silumgarde the Drifting Death, before they became a Dragonlord. Having the dragons you attack, chucking -1/-1 on all the other defending creatures. If you're attacking with 2 dragons, 3 dragons, giving all their creatures -3/-3 is a nightmare for them. I've chucked in Agent of Treachery. It's one of the higher costing cards in the deck, and you might as well have it in here so you can nick some stuff. There might be something you're going to be able to steal off them that's really useful. You're not going to get 3 or more permanents you don't control, but nicking their most annoying thing, Planeswalker springs to mind, some random artifact that's annoying you. Maybe they play Neville's Disc, for example. You nick it from them before they can blow the world up and upset you, and you can control when you blow the world up then. Deathbringer Regents arrived. When it enters the battlefield, you cast from your hand. There are 5 or more creatures on the battlefield. Destroy all other creatures. Be careful casting this if you've got all your dragons in play, but it does help in the early game. If you ramp to it, it gives you another kind of wrath effect, which means that will stay in play, but everything else will be dead. Ancient Silver Dragon was really expensive when it first came out on MTGO. It has dropped. I'm not going to say it's going to drop a massive amount, but I think it's down to about 5 tickets when I picked this up the other day. It's one of the dragons you're going to be seeing turn up quite a bit in my decks. Just rolling that D20, drawing the cards and not having a maximum hand size really does help you with this deck. What I will say, however, A, you've got to deal the combat damage, and B, you need to be careful. I have seen people deck themselves with this card where they've hit 20 and then another double figure number, so bear that in mind. Rise of the Dark Realms, hopefully we'll get the ramp out, get it up to it, and it does give us a way of bringing back all our creatures if we have to blow the board up with Damnation when we've got dragons in play. Plus the fact you get to nick everyone else's cards, you can't fault it. The last few cards are, well, we'll just jump the last 2. Commit to Memory. Commit or memory, target spell, second from top, exile your hand, shuffle your hand in the graveyard into your library, helps you reset. I'm not playing, as you can see, Elixir of Immortality. This is what I'm using instead, so bear that in mind. The X spells, Clash of Will is just a fancy way of countering a spell. Likewise, Condescend's a fancy way of countering a spell as well, and that lets you scry. Mass Manipulation, because we're going to nick stuff at some stage undoubtedly. Finale of Eternity, blow up some creatures with toughness X or X. Hopefully we'll get this up to 10 and we can return all the creature back cards from our graveyard to the battlefield if we need to. And the final, as a backup win condition, is Torment of Hailfire, sorry. Repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. Yeah, okay, go for it. We're going to do this and go it that way. So, there you go. That's Sivitri, Dragon Master. I hope you enjoyed this deck tech. As I'm filming this, I think I said it in yesterday's video, I'm filming these at the same time. Please, 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 if you're on Twitch and you aren't following me, go and hit the link down below and give me a follow. I'd really appreciate it. We're 23 days as I'm filming this off the fact of when this goes up, there'll be 21 days until I'm trying to hit my goal of 150 before my birthday in October. So please, if you can, go and hit the follow button. Just do it. Likewise, I'm not begging for it, I'm okay, but if you've got a spare Amazon Prime subscription or you want to chuck some gift stuff my way, I'd love you if you did that, and I'll make sure that if you do that, you do get to game and you do get to talk with me as well at some stage. But that's it. What I'd like you also to do, because you've just watched a YouTube video, if you're not already, hit the subscribe button. We're getting there. We're up to 40 subscribers now. Only 960 to go, but we're at 40. There's a starting point. If you're not subscribed to me before now, please hit the subscribe button. You don't have to watch another video. Obviously, I'd love it if you did, but if you hit the subscribe button and help me get a little bit closer to that goal of 1,000, I'd really appreciate it. But that's it for me on this deck tech. I hope you enjoyed my little talk about Sivitri, the Dragon Master, which I'm sure I'm abusing, so I'm sorry if I've got the name wrong and someone can tell me off in the comments. And I'll see you in the next deck tech. Cheers guys, and ladies, and people. Bye!